Hi, and welcome to Athena Insights. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get all future insights. My name's Linda Murray, and I'm the founder and lead executive coach at Athena Leadership Academy. Today we're going to talk about one of the most effective skill sets for all great leaders in business. And it's also something which many leaders find incredibly challenging: delegation. Navigating the world of successful delegation can feel like walking a tightrope across the Grand Canyon when you first begin, delicately teetering between absolute freedom and possible failure. The payoffs are so sweet, but it also requires discipline, diligence, and clear, concise communication between all involved parties. So however scary it may seem, it is absolutely one of the most essential skills to master for those wanting to fast track to the C-suite. So how good are you really at delegating? Today we're going to explore how to become a better delegator and what benefits this will yield for you and for your team. In my experience, most professionals who feel resistance around delegation, it generally comes down to two things: fear of loss of control and fear of others dropping the ball. Former US Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor once said something about delegation that really stuck with me. The really expert riders of horses let the horse know immediately who's in control, but then guide the horse with loose reins and seldom use spurs. This really encapsulates what true leadership means when it comes to delegation: clarity of vision, boundaries, and empowerment. So given delegating is such a practical thing, let's jump into the top tips for effective and empowered delegation in the commercial world. Tasks versus responsibility. I know this sounds obvious, but so many people get it wrong. Be really clear about what you're delegating. Is it a task or is it an ongoing responsibility? And make sure you and the recipient know the difference. A task is something that's one-off, has a clear beginning and an end. A responsibility is more ongoing and has broader power which rests with the person who's being delegated to. It's important that you and the recipient know and understand what you're asking them to do. So whatever you're delegating, ensure that the person completing the work for you has the appropriate authority to get the job done. Here's a hint: if it's going to be a responsibility, then they'll need more authority. And when I look around at when delegation doesn't work, I most often see that sufficient authority hasn't been given by the delegator. So people simply don't have the power they need to make the decisions to complete the work. Transparency. By transparency, I mean resourcing people effectively and ensuring that they're empowered to succeed. So this also means being honest about your expectations and allowing them to respond with any questions they might have before they commence the work. Empower them with as much info as you can to help them complete the task well and to the best of their ability. This might even include you being vulnerable and sharing if there's an occasion where you might have struggled with that piece of work previously yourself. The more you tell them, the more advice you can provide them with, the better it will be for everyone. Share your vision with them to inspire them. Help them understand how they actually fit into that overall picture, and over time, you'll foster an environment of co-creativity and trust. So start small and watch yourself and them grow along the way. Boundaries. In order for delegation to be successful, it's absolutely essential to communicate boundaries around the completion of what's being delegated. So if you're handing off a task, clear boundaries could include things like deadlines, time limits, geographic constraints, or the mistakes that they simply must avoid in order to complete the task successfully. If we're handing over an ongoing responsibility, clear boundaries could include which decisions the person can and can't make without approval, or techniques or resources they can and can't use given their level of authority. Communicating boundaries means being specific about those limits associated with that piece of work. Freedom. If there's one piece of advice that I could give about the linchpin of making delegation effective, it is this. Once you hand it over, step off. Give the person freedom to perform and also to make mistakes. If you provide them with all the relevant boundaries, they will clearly understand what signifies an okay mistake versus what is a critical failure. A culture of right versus wrong is really destructive and limits people's growth. I believe great cultures are founded on right versus learn. To create this environment, have a conversation around what happens when mistakes are made and who cleans up which mistakes. We all learn our greatest lessons from the mistakes we make, so don't expect perfection. The freedom you give when you delegate will allow them to earn your trust. You can start off small by handing off small tasks and responsibilities and then move up to larger ones. Without freedom, the person will not have the room to use their innate creativity and to delight you. So what's the payoff of great delegation? I know it's pretty obvious, but it's worth recapping what you and your team will get out of being persistent with delegation. Even if at first you wobble, try again, because the end game is so worthy of the pursuit. So here are some payoffs. First, efficiency. You and your team will be managing time and tasks, commensurate to where the value can best be added, and will be capable of achieving so much more. Building trust and empowering your people, which is teaching new skills and giving them the confidence to try something new. And finally, flexibility and skill building. A result of effective delegation is that more of your team are able to perform more functions. This means you can scale up for higher demands quite easily when there's the commercial need. And it's really important to be able to do this to avoid burning out key players. So each time you delegate, try one of these tips and see the positive impact it makes. As a leader, never be afraid to ask your team for feedback. Do they find your delegation style productive and helpful? Or are there some changes they would suggest? We always need to pitch to our receiver, so the best way to ensure that the person that you're delegating to actually understands and completes the task successfully is to ask how they would like to receive the information. So I hope you found these tips useful, and until next time, here's to your success.